Okay folks, today we're back in the galley kitchen this morning, and my name is Jesse. Glad to have you here with me this morning. We're going to be making some flaky biscuits, some really nice buttermilk biscuits. So the what you see sitting here in front of you on the counter, I have 2 cups of bread flour. Now I'm not using all-purpose flour today. I could have, but instead I just want to use bread flour because I just want to see what kind of biscuits it's going to make. I haven't used bread flour in biscuits before. But we see I have 2 cups of flour. In the 2 cups of flour, I'm going to mix in 3 tablespoons of baking powder. So I'm just going to pour that around the edge. I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon of baking soda. That's just because I want something to cut down on all the acid in the biscuits. The last time the biscuits gave me a little bit of heartburn. And I don't want that. So I'm going to put that in. Okay. Then we have, over here we have 2 teaspoons of sugar. 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. Spread that around real good. And then the last ingredient, dry ingredient, I have a half a teaspoon of salt. This is sea salt. Okay, now that's all the dry ingredients, and I'm going to whisk all this together real good and just get it mixed up real good. Just take just a minute. This bread flour, I don't know if you can tell by just looking right there, but it's really airy, you know, really light. It's got a lot more gluten in it, so you have better gluten strands when you're making any kind of bread, really. But I haven't tried it in biscuits. This will be interesting. Now, you know, I can use all-purpose flour. I can just take, 3 cups of all. I ain't going to tell you something that's not right. But if I wanted to convert regular flour into all-purpose flour, there is an easy way to do that. And I'm going to look it up for you. Okay, what we want to do, if you want to convert all-purpose flour to self-rising flour, all you got to do is take 2 cups of all-purpose flour, mix or whisk in 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and then a half a teaspoon of salt, and then you've got flour that's good to go as far as self-rising flour. But today, this is not the purpose here. Today I just want to get all these dry ingredients mixed because this is the recipe for these biscuits. Now the other important part of making buttermilk biscuits, now this is not for you home experienced cooks. Anybody that's been doing it for years, you might have 1,000 recipes for biscuits. But this is for the novice. This is for somebody if they want to get good results, something not too difficult. But the most important thing, I'm going to say it over and over again during this video, don't overwork your dough. And because if you do, you're going to have flat and tough biscuits. But right now what we're going to do, I'm going to get my butter out of the freezer. We're going to cut in 6 tablespoons of butter. Now this butter I've chopped up in smaller pieces. I'm going to use my hands, and I'm going to incorporate this butter into this flour because that's what the recipe calls for. So I'm just going to kind of begin by spreading it around in the bowl. Now I'm going to work fast because I don't want my butter to melt on me at all. That's why I start with my bowl what came straight out of the freezer. I like for everything to be cold. And I'm just going to take this and start squeezing this butter. As you can see, I'm just squeezing the butter into the flour. Now you might think this is going to take forever, but it's not. Even though that butter is really cold, I don't want to squeeze it in my hand too long and make it defrost, but I just want to get, you gotta squeeze the butter, or the flour is not going to come in. It's going to melt some, in a way. I mean, it's going to melt some. But it will incorporate it, and you'll see. I want you to follow my procedure. Don't get bored. Don't get up and go get a cup of coffee and all that stuff while I'm doing this, because you're going to watch this flour. Due to the butter, it's going to change color and it's going to change consistency. It's already starting to do it here in the middle. I want to get this stuff in the outside in. Now some people, they use a fork. They actually have a tool for this, but I don't want to have any more tools on my baking station than I have to. I really like to get one of those butter, devices and a biscuit cutter and all kinds of stuff. But right now, I'm just making do with what I got, because I don't want to be going into a store and walking around those aisles with this COVID-19 virus all over the place, hunting down stuff like that. I could order it online, I could, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. I like using my hands when I'm baking. You know, it just makes it more fun for me. I don't know, I just more personal, I guess. I mean, these biscuits are going to be for me. I might give Amy a few of them, but usually a batch of biscuits don't last too long around here, because my dog likes butter, loves butter, and anytime I make buttermilk biscuits, she eats 2 or 3 of them herself. You know, because when I make up some biscuits, what I like to have is I like to have some fried sausage, or some fried bacon, a fried ham, and make a ham biscuit, or make some tomato gravy or mustard gravy. I love mustard gravy with biscuits and gravy. Or I'll make sausage gravy, but if I make it out of bacon, I'll make the gravy out of the bacon drippings and then save the grease for when I make other things. If you're following my channel, you're following it to lose weight. You're following it for the wrong purpose, because I don't cook to save weight. I mean, you should save calories. I cook for flavor and texture and richness and all that, and then I just give a lot of it away, and then I exercise regularly. You know, you got to work that stuff off. You're going to be eating like I do, you got to get out and exercise. But I get plenty of that with Bonnie, because she requires going out to the woods about 3 or 4 times a week. Otherwise, she doesn't do well. She gets depressed, you know, just being in the house all winter long. But I love to be outside much she does, so that's no problem. If you've been following my channel, any of my channels, you'll see that I post a lot of videos of me and Bonnie out in the woods. Okay, now this is starting to come along, so what I'm going to do now, I don't want to make a mess, and I'm certainly not going to make it fly all over the table, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to start crumbling it in my hand. You see, now the reason I'm doing that, I want you to see it, is that it just really gets that butter incorporated. And I found over time making these that if you get your butter, all your chunks of your butter, as many of those chunks out as you can, you're going to have much more success. But you got to work fast. You don't want your butter to melt. Okay? But you can see this is starting to come along. It's not even, it doesn't look anything like it did when I started. It's much, look at that. See how it's pressing in? Watch that. That's almost a biscuit itself right there. But it's getting in there good. And even though it clumps up when I squeeze it, I don't feel that many butter lumps anymore in there. I'm going to keep doing it a little. I want to get as much as I can. There was one. Reach in there and see if I can feel any. But yeah, that's getting there. Now see, this would be a good beginning for a pie crust here, if you would make your pie crust, or doing some kind of baking. This is one of the first things you got to learn to do when you're baking pies or anything like that. You have got to learn to incorporate your butter. And that's the way you do it, my friends. Have 6 tablespoons of butter, or 3/4 of a stick of butter, chopped up and mixed in to 2 cups of flour and the other dry ingredients. And boy, it's in there now. See that? That's nice. That is really consistent. I bet you I could sift that, but I'm not going to. Now I'm going to make a well in the middle, because now once I put that, now this is the secret to these buttermilk biscuits. I need you to understand this, okay? So pay close attention. Once I put the milk into this mixture, this dough must not be overworked. You don't need to knead this dough. You don't need to do any of that stuff. What you want to do, you want to get that milk in. You want to let that milk soak up this flour, you know, get into it, make a mixture. It's going to be a little bit sticky at first. You're going to think you don't have enough, but I have my little sifter here with a 1/2 cup of flour in it that I can lightly sift on, because you'll see the dough is going to be tacky at first, but it gets to where it's workable. But I don't want to overwork it. I'm not going to turn this dough, I mean, or knead it or any of that. I'm just going to fold it a few times, let it rest, and then I'm going to roll it out, cut it. I'm going to roll it out to about a 1/2 inch thickness. I want to get 9 to 10 biscuits out of this, and I'm going to put it in this. This pan is non-stick, but I always butter it and put a little flour on it, because I don't want my biscuits sticking. So I'm going to put them in there, and I should get 10 biscuits in there. Then they'll rise next to each other, which will cause them to rise straight up. I want it to be nice and soft and fluffy. So now I got my milk out of the refrigerator. This is 1 cup of buttermilk, okay? And so now we're going to go ahead and just pour it all right into the well we made. Remember now what I've told you, don't overwork this dough. And don't just, you know, stir and stir and stir and all that stuff. Every little bit of work you do. All we're going to do is just fold that dough in kind of. And you'll see. So I'm going to start right here in the center. I'm practicing in my bowl so I can start doing this on my tabletop without having to mess up a bowl. But I used to just go too quickly. I was trying to push too much dough into there at one time. And, you know, what I want to do is I want to get a little slurry going here in the middle. That will incorporate my milk into my flour. Just work with it nice and smoothly and slowly. Don't kill the dough. Even though there's no yeast in here, it's got baking powder and sugar. So it's going to do the same thing it would do if it had yeast. I mean, you know, it's going to act on it. So we don't want to overwork it, okay? And we don't want this to get too warm, so we got to kind of work steady. But don't go crazy with, you know, mixing this in and stuff. It's not something that you would make in a bread maker, I don't think. No, I wouldn't. Because you can't do this kind of thing I'm doing. Now, see, if I had been working on the table because I had made that flour work into that dough, I wouldn't have had a mess like I had the first couple times I tried it, where the milk ran away from me and got all over my table. And this time I can see that practicing in the bowl, I'll be able to do it on the tabletop pretty soon after the next couple of times. Now I'm just going to keep pushing this flour into this wet dough, this wet mixture where it's already gotten wet, and I'm going to start working my bowl around. Now I don't want to leave any of this in this bowl. I want it all in my biscuit mix. And this biscuit mix is looking good. It's still wet, but you want it to be a little wet. Just keep watching, you'll see. If you go turn the channel, you're going to miss it. And I want to try to just work the bowl over, get all that stuff on the bottom down there. The dough is starting to pull together. I want to get all my stuff incorporated. I'm going to use my finger and get this off. Now see, it didn't stick to my finger too bad. I can already tell that that's going to be all right. But I don't want to build it. I got my buttermilk in now, and now that's working. Believe me, it's going to work in there. So I got to try to hurry up a little bit, be gentle with it, but I want to get everything off the sides, get it all towards the middle. My bowl. Now I'm going to just start pressing on it. I want to get all that loose stuff down there underneath. Start turning it over. Start turning it over. Pick up all that flour down the bottom of your bowl. See, it might look like I'm doing a lot to the dough, but I'm actually not doing much to the dough. I'm just kind of working around the dough. Now that lifted together. You see how that almost has formed a ball? It almost, there we go. It's starting to come together there, soaking up all the flour. And I haven't hardly done any mixing. I've just been turning it a little. Just letting the mixture do its work. Clean off my spatula again. I'm going to put a little flour on my hands, a little flour on my dough ball. And then I'm going to get it out on the block, roll it out, cut it, and put it in the oven. Oven is preheating right now to 425 degrees. I'm going to bake these biscuits at 425 degrees for 12 minutes. I'll check them at 10, but yes, this is ready. Now, that dough is just sitting there, it's just soaking up, forming itself, soaking up all that milk. And I need to get with it now and get the dough out on the board and cutting in the pan. Okay, now where we'll finish doing our mixing is on the, well, not mixing, but pressing together, will be on the floured dough board. Okay? Now, I'm gonna sprinkle just a light bit of flour on this so that when I turn it out on this table, it won't just right away stick, because it's still really wet. So this little bit of flour I'm sprinkling in is not going to mess up my recipe. Okay, look at that, just pop right out of there. That's pretty good. Want it all though. Let me get it all. Leave too much in the bowl. I've left it. That means I've left it out of the recipe. Let me put this bowl over here in the sink. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna get the rest of this off with my spatula. That's good enough. Okay, now there's my thing. I'm gonna flour my hands. Ooh, that's a little too much, Jesse. I got flour flying around here. Okay, see? Now look at that. I'm just going to press it. See? That flour I put down, I'm just going to press it in, fold it in. When you fold biscuits, this is how you get your layers. Now I don't want to overwork it. I'm going to fold it about 5 times. And look at that. I bet you guys thought that dough was way too sticky. How's he ever going to handle that? But it's not. But I am going to get it's getting a little wet now because it is soaking up. There was about a half a cup of flour, still needs to go in. So I'm going to use my scraper, and that helps me get the dough up. And all I'm doing now is I'm just patting the outside of it down with flour so I can work with it a little better. Get my fingers cleaned off. Once you get to this joint point, you can clean your hands. Then just take your whatever you're using, work that stuff back into the loaf. To the biscuits, because we want to get our dough. I am going to start seriously folding this over and getting ready to roll it. I got enough flour. I don't want to put no more flour, but I might have to put a little more. Feel 2 sticky edges. This folding you see me doing, this is how you get layers in your biscuits, folks. When you see those biscuits, those canned biscuits, you open them up, buttermilk biscuits, and they're all flaky. This is what they've done. This is how they did it. See? Just like that. Now I'm about where I need to be. And I'm going to flour the board one more time because I want to roll this out. Like I told you guys, you might think I'm putting down a lot of flour, but I'm not. That homemade duster I made really keeps me from doing that. Okay, this is ready to roll. One more little dusting of dough before I roll it out, because I don't want, flour. I said it again. Flour, because I don't want this going anywhere. Okay, now adjust my roller. Start in the middle. I'm going to try to get this shape so that when I do cut my biscuits out, I'm not going to have a lot left over, because the biscuit that you compress the dough back together to make it all good again, it never comes out as good as the, I got a little something hanging on my roller here. I got to clean it off. Sorry, folks. You can see in there, right there, where my roller was catching the dough. Just take a little flour and get that sticky stuff off of there. Alright, let's try it again. Now this dough is manageable, but what I don't want to do, I don't want to be messing with it all day. So, I want to get that turned around. Now we're going to go with about a ½ inch thickness, and the way I can tell, my biscuit cutter has, it'll make either small ones or big ones. And so when I press it down, I'll show you. If I go in here, and my dough comes up to that top one, and it leaves an impression on it, that means my dough is still a little too high, but that's okay. I like it like that. Put it in the pan. I'm going to cut right next to this other one so I don't have a whole lot of residual leftover, so I don't have to, you know, make it. And you know, I would suggest when you cut your biscuits, don't twist your cutter. That's not ideal thing to do. Just push it straight down and lift it out, and then your biscuits won't be ragged, so ragged on the side. You know, that was sticking a little bit. Why got everything sticking this morning? Everything's sticking. Dust that a little bit. Okay, come over here. See that? Okay, that gives us 9 biscuits in my pan over there. And this is the dough. It's kind of left over. I got 2 choices here. I can either throw it away, or I can get another pan out and I can cut a few more biscuits. I'm going to get another pan out because I ain't throwing food away. But this is what I'm talking about. When you have to redo your dough like this, it causes it to be, those biscuits aren't going to really be as perfect as those ones that I've already cut. I'll just work this by hand instead of rolling it. I could make just one big old biscuit if I wanted to. So this made 12 biscuits this time around. It's not too bad. So that was 12 biscuits came out of that batch. I'm going to cut this one thick. I want to see what happens if I cut it thick like that. See that? I want that thick one. And the rest I'll just pat together. So I got 4 little extra biscuits here. When you work that dough, see the water, that moisture starts to come up. I don't want this to be sticky, so I'm just gonna. Okay, I hear the buzzer going off on the oven, so we're gonna pull them out. It's been exactly 12 minutes. The other ones will have to go about 2 more minutes. Let's get these out and see what they look like. Golden brown and beautiful. Now, see how I didn't let those biscuits rise real high because I don't like my biscuits real high. I'm not going to set that on that cold stove, but I am going to set it up here on this. Let me get back over here with this cutting board. Okay, I'm going to take the one out of the middle. I just want to see if they're done first of all. Ooh, look at that. Perfect. Perfect biscuit. Oh man. Just perfect. I'm going to just let them sit right there in the oven and kind of finish cooking off right there. Now I got another one in here. That's those other 4 that need to go just a few minutes longer. I'll have them out. In the meantime, I'm frying up a pound of bacon, and I'm going to make some gravy. But there we go. There's our biscuits, and that's how it's done. And let me tell you something. I know these biscuits are going to be delicious. Hold on just a second. I'll let you share one with me. I just like butter on mine. Can't have jam and all that stuff, you know. How many times I'm not going to just keep repeating it, but I am a diabetic, believe it or not. I might not eat like one, but I am. You know what? I don't eat as much as I used to. It's not as hungry as I used to be when I was working full time and always on the go. But now that I'm retired and going into my senior years, I just don't need as much. So I let that biscuit. Look, you can just see the color of the biscuit, how the butter gives it that nice yellow color. But now that that's melting in there good, let's take a bite. That'll make you slap your mama right there. You will slap your mama if she never fixed you some biscuits that taste like that. Oh, me. Oh, well. Get in the kitchen and make yourself something to eat. Make some biscuits, buttermilk biscuits. You're gonna really love them. The texture is great. They're light, they're fluffy, and they're delicious. Look at that crust. That butter and that sugar makes that crust form on that like that. Beautiful. Okay, have a nice day. GoPro, stop recording.